Hello, so as the title of the video says, I finally got all the bits of the IMD-5 delivered. That was like the later generation Soviet and Russian Geiger counter, which is like a DP5 but better. But basically, yeah, the point is that, I was waiting ages for all this kit to turn up, so I'm glad I finally have it. Glad you're on Radiac Maniac, because you can see it now. So there's obviously the big wand. I've got the box over there. That's got all the other little accessories in it. See the big crate? That's the IMD-5's crate. But yeah, so I finally got it all assembled, with the straps and everything. So hello to everybody that's joining. There's somebody who's already going to get banned for spamming the chat. There we go. So yeah, I'm glad this turned up. I'll get a proper video done on it at some point. But yeah, having it with the extension one's really handy because it means you can just do that where you sweep it along the floor to check for contamination. Yeah, Keegan, it's basically just a better DP5, isn't it? Nazakat, it's a late Soviet sort of Geiger counter. So just a nice Geiger counter, basically. Again, for most people, modern digital ones are a lot more practical, but these are kind of iconic, cool old units. Yep, suppose you could play golf with these. Yeah, I suppose, yeah, that would sort of act like a golf club, although you're going to be a bit restricted by the cable on it. But yeah, interestingly, you always have it that way, so the beta window faces the floor. That way, it means that when you've got the thing down there, obviously, wherever you sweep along the floor with it, you're checking for contamination that way. I want a check source with the DP5 Radiac, IMD-5. All I'll do for that, look, is I'll put the strontium 90 source it comes with over the check source window. So yeah, let me put that there. Then I'll flick it back on. I think that's about 10 millirad, if I remember. So that's times 10 scale, and I think that will end up on about 1 in a moment. If you want to hear the clicking, hang on. No, I was aware there was 2 variants, Toasty. I wasn't aware there was 3, unless you're including the one that was 40mm in there. A rad is an absorbed Rontgen. What, you mean without radiation detecting equipment? No. Anyway, that will do for that because it's quite clunky and gets in the way a bit. So I'll do a proper video on it where I show off all its features. Yep. As Keegan says, so a rad and a REM are the same thing. Rontgen equivalent man or a Rontgen absorbed dose. So 1.14 Rontgen is 1 rad. So basically, if you wanted to use rads as opposed to sieverts, 1 sievert would be 100 rads. No, you can't feel radiation, at least not to the point where you're already dead. Yeah, exactly, Keegan, as I've covered before in videos, yeah. If you're on the roof of the number 4 reactor, you might be getting rads a second, but in reality, hundreds of years after a nuclear war, you're not going to get rads a second. No, Toasty, the most recent one I've bought and I've not got round to doing a video on yet is the BEM 4GB version with the drinking tube. But yeah, at the moment I've not been buying masks for the simple reason, as you might know, I've been saving up for the bunker. So but that's still probably going to be months away from appearing. But But yeah, so I've had a bit of a strange week this week. So for the people who don't know, I was exposed to corona, potentially. So I had to self-isolate and get a test, and then found out that I didn't have corona. So that was part of what happened this week. Because I think I had like a cold. I had cold-like symptoms, but then obviously that just ended up being a cold. But I was in contact with 2 people that were positive for corona. 20 Rontgens an hour is 200 millisieverts. Radiac Maniac, not 20 millisieverts. I've got a bit of a cold or something, Ryan, but it wasn't corona at least. That was the important thing. Well, the IMD-5 maxes out at 200 rads an hour. So anyway, so yeah, the good news was I didn't have corona. But yeah, a couple of people I work with did have corona. So you know, there was that. But thankfully, I didn't have it when I had the test. That sounds pretty cool, Matthew. The other bad thing this week, well, it ended up not being a bad thing in the end, but one of my relatives got diagnosed with cancer, just to be told like 2 days later they didn't actually have cancer and their diagnosis got misdiagnosed. I didn't see that, Mike, but that's getting a bit Orwellian, isn't it? I can understand why they do that. Oh, thank you very much. Well, thank you incredibly much, Thomas. I really do appreciate that. But yeah, if I did order a crate of beer sort of recently, not just beer actually. What it was is toffee apple cider. I really like. And I forgot how much I like that, because in a lot of shops they only sell it around Halloween sort of time. You know, like November sort of, you know, October, November sort of time. So I bought a couple of bottles of toffee apple cider. I think I was given them for my birthday, if I remember right. I can't remember if I either bought them or got them for my birthday. But anyway, I was like, oh, I really like the taste of these, but they're really expensive in the supermarkets, or they barely have any stock in. Then I found out you can order them online, you know, in like bulk crates. So I've ordered, yeah, some bulk toffee apple cider. So if you want, that will go towards that. But thank you very much. Geiger counters are cool though, Keegan. Well, I suppose officially it would be a bunker, Chris, but I'm sure I could come up with some sort of man cavey name for it. Yeah, you can recommend YouTubers. I mean, whether or not they'd be ones I like their videos or not, but you can recommend them as long as it's like not somebody that's, you know, like racist or horrible like that. Yeah, as we said, Ash Stewart, the ROC post is what I'll be getting when one eventually comes up and I've got all the money together for it. But like I said, at the moment, I've not seen another one go up for sale since that one went up in Norfolk at the end of September, wasn't it? And again, whoever got that for £17,000, that was a steal in my opinion. But what's the funniest thing I've ever seen somebody do? Don't actually know. Yeah, I saw the picture of that, Richard, on Twitter. That looks good. Well done making that. So is that just PVC pipe you did that from? But it looks good. Yeah, thank you. A massive thank you, Thomas, because I just searched what that was in pounds. And that was £121. So a massive thank you towards that, because that's literally like, I think, a couple of percentage towards a bunker in terms of that, and obviously a lot of beer. Yeah, it's sad, isn't it, Matthew, when stuff like that gets filled in for no reason. Like, I can understand sometimes why it's done as a safety hazard reasons, but when it's just like, oh, let's just fill in the bunkers because we don't want people going in them. That's interesting, Radiac Maniac. Yeah, Toasty, if you've not been following the channel for the last few months, because of how expensive housing is in the UK, I'm planning on eventually just finding an ROC post that's for sale with a bit of land with it and buying that, because renovating that and living in it would be way cooler than getting a tiny flat, and, you know, way cheaper as well. I suppose it depends where you are, doesn't it, John? But it can't you just make a good system to get the water out? Because that's what they used to do with a lot of bunkers. Oh yeah, I've seen some of those Nazacat where like he gets the scammers on webcam, doesn't he? But yeah, I've seen it. So I've seen some other videos like that one. But yeah, yeah, because the clocks went back an hour, and I've actually corrected that one now. It's not when I'm building, Erica's saying. It's where the old colder ones from Britain go up on sale every now and again. All right, thank you, Eric. That's pretty cool, Ash, because a lot of them, because Surviving the Apocalypse, if you've seen his channel, he's got an old ROC post he runs as a museum. And he said with a load of them, everything gets gutted out when they were sold. But then you find others where they, when they go up for sale, it seems to have almost everything that was originally in them. So I don't know which ones, the MOD or RAF or whoever it was decided they were going to take all the stuff out for. Yeah, again, it's a complete waste, isn't it, Matthew, if it's just filled in for like a reason like that. He's a bloke who built a bunker in his garden, is he, communist dude? I've seen that. It's very impressive. I mean, I don't know what like sort of shock capacity it has, all stuff like that in terms of like, Richter scale. No, Radiac Maniac, what's that? What's your budget, Keegan? And then I can try and recommend one for your budget. Well, I can't fly, but I can legally drive, so probably a tank, although a plane would be cooler to own. For $200, Keegan, you might be able to get an IMD-5. And for that money, I would recommend an IMD-5 because it's like a classic Geiger counter, but a very good one. Because obviously you can get the modern things like, radius scans and like therapies and that. But I think, in all honesty, if you wanted something that has a bit of cool old factor for it, you'd probably want something like a full DP5 or IMD5 kit. DP5s will be slightly cheaper, Keegan. The DP5V and the IMD5 are pretty much the same thing. Just the IMD5 has a nicer display and a couple of like smaller improvements to it. Oh, I might have seen that Radiac Maniac in one of those museums that has all the old radioactive quackery stuff on. Yeah, again, what a waste, Ash, isn't it? When you think that they could have literally sold that for like 20 to 30 grand with a little bit of land around it. But no, just turn it into a septic tank or whatever, yeah. Yeah, for that, Keegan, I'd say go for that. Then you've got a bit of money left over and you've got a cool Geiger counter. But yeah, DP5s are very cool counters just because, again, it's the classic Soviet one that was used, during Chernobyl and everything like that. We were talking a bit about ROC posts, Sam. We were talking about Geiger counters as well. It depends which bit of the conversation you're on about. But yeah, ROC post, Royal Observer Corps post, as in the little bunkers. The one sort of room bunk with a little toilet room in it. No, I've not seen Kalashnikov's new smart shotgun. What makes it a smart shotgun? Does it have an iPad attached to it or something? That's really cool, Sam. Yeah, there's a couple like that. But yeah, Surviving the Apocalypse, who comes on here sometimes and chats with people, he's got one in Northern Ireland he runs as a museum. All right, glad you like the videos, Michael. How are you in the US at the moment? Because I know it's coming up close to the election soon, isn't it? Apparently, there's probably meant to be 600 to 700 left, Sam, from what people estimate. But yeah, the problem is so many of them are just on private land where they've just been left derelict. But yeah, like I said, the idea is the reason I want one just because it's cheaper than housing and it'd be a really cool thing to own. Yeah, I've got Fred's on DVD. Fred's is an excellent sort of post-apocalyptic depression film, isn't it? If you didn't see, I did put a traffic warden outfit together for a video with the bandage around my face and the traffic warden cap and the SLR. Yeah, and then it maxes out at 200 Rontgen. All right, Stug. Yeah, I imagine things might get a bit crazy, Michael, in all honesty, with some of the stuff going on there. But the thing is, I really don't blame people in like the States at the moment if they did think prepping was a good idea. Because I imagine with like elections and that, you could get a lot of people do stupid shit due to the election. Yeah, I'll get the IMD-5 back up. Hang on. So, obviously, I've got the probe on the end of the wand at the moment. But if I turn it on, the check source is covering the thing, right? That's why it's doing that. But there you go. So that's an IMD-5. Yeah, these are lovely old counters. But again, the reason I wanted one of these is basically, just for those of you that want a sort of brief history on Geiger counters, is the Soviets had a really good mass-produced one in the Cold War called the DP5 series. And I've got a DP5A and a DP5V, and I've done a video on a DP5B as well before. But the IMD-5 is kind of like, you know, like all the good bits of the DP5s, just improved a bit. But yeah, IMD-5s are good if you wanted just an all-round, fairly tough, idiot-proof Geiger counter. You know, that's got all the classic things. So the thing I love about the Soviet ones that sadly a lot of nations didn't do was just the fact the probe can click onto an extension wand. And obviously the point of this is you can check for contamination on the ground without leaning over really close to it. Because essentially, you know, you use this like a metal detector where you walk along and sweep it in front of you to check how irradiated the floor is. When did he do that, Stug? I'm pretty sure his videos are still up. That's not really my expertise, Eric, in all honesty. Is that an ID11, Mr. Laney? Is that just like a little dosimeter thing like that? Because if it's one of those, they won't be any use to you, really. Because I think ID11s are the ones that had to be put in a certain machine to read. All right, Flazzy? Yeah, the ID11 isn't worth getting, Mr. Laney, unless you want it as a cool little like necklace thing. I've got like 4 or 5 ID11s, but you can't do anything with them. I didn't know. I didn't hear why, Stug. I don't know if he's been harassed by people again or whatever. But yeah, the what was I going to say? The let me think of a good word for it. The ID11 is like the ones that British Army dosimeter reads, where you essentially need a machine where you pull out like a drawer, and it would be like the Soviet equivalent of this one. So basically, oh, cheers, Spooky, for joining up. Like the ID11 is like the Soviet equivalent of this, where it's like a crystal that picks up radiation, and then it's put into like a reading machine. You know, to read it. When are you putting it that way up, aren't I? So yeah, it would go into a machine like that, and it would be read on the machine. So they're pretty useless for most people because you need the actual machine to read them. To a degree, Mohammed, yes, but the only issue is if there's stuff mixed in with a tear gas, they're only going to block the particle of the CS. You know, Corona, little ninja, you know, the whole coronavirus thing. That might mean, Stug, that he's just made the videos private for a bit. I've not heard anything on why that might be, but I know, like, sometimes, because people get harassed on YouTube, you know, due to certain losers on the platform, some people end up just making all their videos private now and again. Yeah, Altrix, he donated £120, like, equivalent in actual UK money. No, Matthew, somebody was going to send me potentially a med kit that had a lot of anti-radionuclide stuff in it, but that would be something, you know, you'd only take as a last resort if something bad happens. It depends what sort of armor you want, you Group Infinite. Because, you know, that's kind of a hard question to answer. Oh, cheers, Doug. I didn't realise you weren't already signed up on that, but yeah. So yeah, when I do a members video, I'll probably do a members stream tomorrow. You can see those. For some reason, I already thought you were on there, Stug. I don't know why, but it's probably just because you're on Discord a lot and like Twitch and that, aren't you? Which is why. Bullet and cut proof. I mean, if you just want decent basic protection, you just want the police style level 3A Kevlar vest with like a bit of knife protection thrown in as well. Mr. Laney, they normally just go for sale on eBay, or they're included sometimes with some gas masks where they come in the satchel. I don't think I bought mine separately, if I remember. I think mine came in gas mask satchels. Actually, saying that, the Soviet one I've got might have come separate. I can't remember now. Oh yeah, for the people who have, Mr. Livera, did you know if it means you have to be signed up for like 28 reoccurring days, or is it just when the month clock's over? I don't actually know how it works in that regard, but yeah. Well, here, Justin, would be the answer to that. Here. But I probably would end up selling quite a lot of them, in all honesty, I think. Yeah, see, I don't, yes, there's things live here. I don't have the colour changes, like you're saying, every 30 days or 28 days, or whatever it is, on a reoccurring membership, or if it's literally the start of each month. Right, Edgar? Yeah, I won't be on the stream for too long tonight, because as I said, although thankfully it turned out on my COVID test I was negative, I've definitely had a bit of a cold, you know, so I keep getting a bit of a sore throat and that. And I'll definitely try and do a members stream tomorrow, even if it's just for half an hour. That's pretty cool, Radiac Maniac. I mean, in lots of countries, people who live close to nuclear plants aren't issued nice stuff like that. Why doesn't he want to post it, Stug? That's weird. Oh, is it like doesn't want to post it to Ireland, or is it just somebody who's like, oh, I don't trust posting stuff? Oh, a collection only. Oh, Mix, there'd be plenty of guns I'd get if, you know, we could just get them easily in the UK. But in terms of expense, you know, there's loads of stuff you think, oh, I'd get that if, you know, money was an object, you know, that would be like loads of DX or, you know, cars. No, I mean, in the UK, Eric, we don't have lots of weird abandoned buildings laying about. In some parts of the UK, they do, but mostly because of how valuable land is, for the most part, over here. If there's you know, abandoned building, it gets knocked down fairly quickly for them to build something else over it. Not as far as I'm aware, Radiac Maniac. As I said, I hope I don't, and I'm not aware of it. All right, thank you, Al Ryan. That's pretty cool, Timothy. How many people was the bunker for, roughly? Was it like one of those communal ones? All right, I'll look it up, Radiac Maniac. There's nothing obvious coming up when I search it. I can see one that says Family Radiation Detection Kit, which emergency kit, which is like IOSAT tablets or ThyroSafe, whatever. I assume it's a thyroid thing, and like some very basic gear. But yeah, it's good if they provide you that stuff, because, they don't over here. Yeah, that's the thing, Rich. I think most of us, like Mike was saying on his stream the other day when people were getting asked, what would they do if they won the lottery? I think for most people, just getting a nice bit of house and some land would be the best thing, wouldn't it? How do you mean by replace their gas masks, Mixer? Because, military masks tend to get replaced like every 10 to 20 years or so. The S10 was replaced by the GSR in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, like 2007 sort of time. But then the GSR's had a load of problems since it replaced the S10. So now Avon is making the GSR as a stopgap before they get a load replacement. What type of bunker was it, Thomas? Was that an ROC one, or was it like one of the better bunkers? Because sometimes in the UK, you get the slightly bigger bunkers go for sale. Cheers, James. Yes, it was a nuclear bunker, yeah, because so now and again you get regional government bunkers, or like the smaller ones, like like council emergency bunker type ones, that go for sale. But they're generally like 200,000 odd. I don't think they'll be doing it anytime soon, because they switched from the M40 to the M50 only a few years ago, if I remember right. Most likely Avon, Spooky, because Avon's one of the world's biggest manufacturers of gas masks, and they're a British company. I've watched a couple of like anime or manga films, whatever you call them, but I've never really watched it properly as a genre, if that makes sense. Oh yeah, please do, Thomas, because I'm interested in what type it was. If you mean my profile picture, Eric, yes. Well, the US replaced the M40 with the M50. And I think they have stuff like FM53s and FM54s in certain uses. I actually don't know what gas mask Latvia is using right now. I know during the Cold War they'd have had Soviet stuff, but right, cool. Radiac Maniac, let me have a look at that. So yeah, it's to stop the your thyroid absorbing all that radiation. Yeah, let me load up Discord, Thomas, and I'll have a look. Right, I see the link. Oh, so that looks like an ROC post, but slightly bigger. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's strange. I've not seen one like that. So, so I mean, this was in 2017. So yeah, it looks like an ROC bunker, but it's bigger. That's quite strange, actually. That one. So yeah, I'm assuming it was one maybe for an airfield, was it, or something? So it is kind of like built in the same style as an ROC one, just bigger dimensions. As we said quite a few times, Robs, an ROC post would be the type I'd be getting, unless for some reason a bigger one turns up for a similar price. But yeah, that's interesting because yeah, the one Thomas linked to was basically like an ROC post, just bigger, but like that same sort of ladder and hatch design, but just a much bigger room underneath. Yeah, I'd assume it was then, if that was close to an airfield, it would have just been sort of for the personnel of an airfield or something. Yeah, it's definitely not like a government style bunker. I mean, obviously it was built by like the MOD or whatever, but you know, what I mean by that is it's not like looking at it's not like the regional government style bunkers. So yeah, that's quite strange because it's literally an ROC post just sized up, which is really cool. Yeah, I think a lot of the time Arab countries normally buy the sort of stuff from different things like America and Europe, don't they? Because I know Britain gets in like trouble every now and again. When I say like trouble, because like Britain sells a lot of stuff to Saudi Arabia, and then people are saying like, oh, but the Saudi Arabia is using it in the war against Yemen or whatever. You shouldn't be selling it. Well, it's sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I suppose if you sell other countries your military gear. Rob, as I said, what happens a lot of the time is they just come up for sale. You can actually find sites where they're all sold. Um, but yeah, sadly, most of the ones closest to where I am have been filled in. As I said, the plan is because they just do turn up every few months. Generally, one gets listed. It's just to basically, when I've got the money together and one comes up, as long as it's got the proper land ownership rights of it, you know, rather than being essentially, you're still going to have to pay rent on the land, even if you bought the bunker. The plan is just getting one like that. As far as I'm aware, there isn't a cheek filter mask currently in use anywhere. Yeah, well, that's exactly the thing, Flazzy. Like I was saying, yeah, you want to make sure you've got all that because obviously, without a lot of that, they're almost useless, aren't they? You can't move them, PC Dragons. They're like proper built-in things. That's like I was saying when people keep bringing this up. Am I building it? No, there are actual old ones from the Cold War that are built that you can buy. You know, when because the MOD sold them off when the Cold War ended because you know the Russians weren't planning on nuking us. Sorry, the Soviet Union wasn't planning on nuking us after it collapsed. So the length of it, Eric, carbine is just means a short rifle essentially. Yeah. Basically, yeah, it's just they were monitoring bunkers, PC Dragon, basically. So what happened was during the 50s, Britain built lots and lots and lots of monitoring bunkers. And then when the Cold War ended, they all basically got sold off or just given back to the people who would have owned the land they were on. So some of them have been destroyed or scrapped. But you know, there are still some about. As I said, Reddit's a bit of a shithole website, isn't it? Like I've said before, I've you know, oh, people make fun of me on Reddit. What do I care? You know, it's not like Reddits are actually useful for anything. I think there's one or two good Reddits I've used before, and that's been it. Like most Reddits are just kind of dumpster fires. You pull the pin, Eric, and you throw it as far away as possible. It depends, PC Dragon, on the actual ones. Like ROC posts are pretty small because they were designed for 2 to 4 people in general. Like you wouldn't really want 4 people in it at all times either, because then it'd be quite cramped. But again, there were bigger bunkers built for different purposes, but ROC ones for monitoring posts. Yeah, it's funny, Richard, isn't it? Like stuff like that goes back almost like hundreds or thousands of years, stuff like that. So it's not so much of a modern thing of, oh no, one country is supplying another country of arms. Right. In all honesty, Keegan, I think you wouldn't survive a nuclear war. I'm not saying you personally, I just mean in general. If there was a mutually assured destruction exchange, you know, you're not going to survive it. You know, I don't think you'd really want to survive it. So, in all honesty, I'd say, you know, if I think a bunker like a storm shelter is a good idea, but I think, you know, spending loads of money to build one just for the sake of having one isn't really, you know, very practical. Yeah, exactly, Lewis. So it'd be over very quickly, wouldn't it, if you were that close to one? You just want to buy ones that aren't like really old surplus, really. But again, I think now this stream's turned into one of the ones of lots of people come on that have no idea what this channel's about and are now spamming it. It might get your Corona R rate down, I suppose, Lewis. But yeah, our R rate's gone up again. But you know, although our R rate's going up in Oxford, they're not actually upgrading us. We're still level 1 or whatever they call it, despite the fact we should be bloody level 2 by now. It's impossible to say because some stuff is useless almost as soon as it's surplus if it wasn't good quality to begin with. The PBF is probably my favourite design, the mixer, just because it's got an oral nasal cup in it. It's got forward-facing optics for, like, you know, using with scopes. It could be Chris, the one he linked. But yeah, it definitely was something to do with an airfield use, I think, by looking at the page on it. Yeah, because like I said, for the most part in the UK, obviously they built ROC bunkers. They then did like bigger, more regional kind of ones, and then there was a couple of really big military sort of / government bunkers. But yeah, now and again there's the kind of interesting ones that seem to fill in, you know, almost fit between the sizes. Right. In my opinion, the COVID app is a bit useless because, as I said, for those of you that didn't know, when I said earlier in the week, I was told I came into contact with 2 people that tested positive for coronavirus. So I had to go get a test, you know, so I was self-isolating until I got a test. The people who were also exposed to those people didn't get notifications either. So we only found out directly from the infected people that we'd been in contact with them, rather than the app doing anything, you know. So yeah, the thing is, I think the app is better than no app, but again, it still doesn't work properly. Because, you know, that was like the same thing I said to people that when I found out I'd potentially been into contact with people with corona, I told a load of people I knew, you might want to get a test, or you're going to want to watch out for symptoms or whatever. And then those people didn't get notified via the app either, So it seems like the chain of reporting down the app doesn't really work very well. Some do, some don't, Timothy. It depends if you get a GOST threaded one or a NATO threaded one, because weirdly they did both and they gave it the same name. All right. What's interesting about the PMK2 kit then, Stug? Because I've got a PMK1 and I've got a PMK3. So what does the PMK2 do that the PMK1 doesn't, but then I suppose that the PMK3 didn't also do? They turn up on eBay again now and again as size 4 S10s, like all the other sizes of S10s. It's just how much are you willing to pay for one? Yeah, it's a shame if it gets knocked down or whatever, or filled in, Tachion, because again, they're cool things. And like we said, if it seems silly, when if you're a landowner and there's actually often people who want to buy them for sometimes like 20 to 30 grand, you wouldn't want to sell it, like, oh, I'll just destroy it rather than have anybody have any fun out of it, But they're cool things, but sadly they are one of those things where over the years there's less and less of them about, just because the amount of them that get vandalized to the point they're completely useless, or get filled in with concrete or earth because somebody decides, oh, I don't want a bunker on my land, I'll just fill it in. Like, I could kind of understand that if somebody was building on top of it, but I can really not understand it when it's literally somebody like, oh, I'm just going to fill this in because why would I want a bunker on my land? It just that's just the bit that makes no sense to me. Like, if you happen to own the land with it on already, wouldn't you be like, oh, that's cool, I want to keep this? No, just fill it in with concrete. What's the point in having it? The outserts are the same size on all of the S10s, because the eyepiece is the same size on every S10, which is why a size 4 S10 looks tiny, because the eyepieces look huge. And the size 1 S10 looks gigantic compared to the eyes. Anyway, I'll head off because, as I said, my throat's a bit sore. Because, yeah, I've still got a cold or something, but thankfully it isn't corona, because I had to have the thing shoved down my throat and my nose. But it told me I didn't have corona, so that was good. And just to prove that, because look, there's the thing that says, you were tested. And if people, I should have a picture of it actually. I think I screenshotted it. And just quickly show you, just to prove I'm not an irresponsible person that randomly walks around. Yeah, there we go. So this is what it was saying. You have to self-isolate. And then once I had the test, yeah, good news, you don't have to self-isolate anymore, you've had the test, sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, so thanks everybody, and a massive thank you obviously to Thomas, because that is a massive donation, so massive thank you. As I said, I'll do a members stream tomorrow rather than the standard one tomorrow. But yeah, but like I said, because I've got a bit of a cold and a sore throat and all that at the moment, I don't want to be talking for too long on a stream. But yeah, cool. See you all. Have a good evening.